Hey guys, Joshua Peterson here, Peterson Electric. Third video, might be my final one on this. It is going to be, look for the shirt and the 511 hat, June 18th, 2020. It's going to be, for my SEO guy, just link it as the third video for an open concept for kitchen, living room, dining, and on the electrical. So we had about 30 openings, not including the low voltage, which we don't get into that kind of monkey mess. I refer that out to my guy Jason, I've known since high school. So basically, it took us about an 11-hour day. Yeah, maybe about 10-hour day, but it's two people, and we ended up changing out all of the trims in the house to be the Helco design. I like those. Went with a warm color. These are an Onyx Nora trim. And again, if you're gonna get your parts, that's fine, but we don't let customers get parts anymore. We'll get them ourselves because we're gonna warranty it. But I like the Onyx Nora trim. They're adjustable LED. They're probably 3 times the cost as a normal Helco or Halo. I like Helco better than Halo because it's not a big box store brand. But yeah, we ended up taking out that dining light, putting it in the can and mudding it. Added a can, added a can, added a can, fished those. Subtracted the switch leg that was for the sink and added it to these guys. Took this can, added it, swapped all the trims. Took all of the island power, ran it down into the crawl space and switch leg. So now they're gonna put wood in the floor and finish it all. And then we're gonna come back once I get a pony wall and stub up. So there's gonna be like 80% of the roughing in the beginning, and then 10% for roughing, and then like 10% of the labor for trim. I'd be very fast on trim. In fact, we're gonna supply everything except for just the ceiling fan. Turned out well, everything was fished here, very difficult. Have not seen a ranch that had a hip roof that was skinnier than me getting in. I tried getting up there, but the trusses went a different way, and it's almost a flat, like a membrane roof. I've never seen anything like that in 22 years. House is only 2,000, but interesting how the rain runs off that. But we couldn't get up there, so we tried fishing over. They wanted this ceiling fan here, so I like to put in a keyless and just leave it on so the house is vacant, but we could not fish this. Took us an hour to try, so finally I had to cut 2 holes and just get our arm, because the trusses didn't line up, to get it over and then shove it down, and brought power through. Ended up adding an outlet, removing an outlet because they're having a counter, adding another outlet, and then I always orange it so they can read do not cover. Had to extend the doorbell wire, if you will, for the igniter and the blower power over here. We did add a whip for TV, and then added an outlet above the counter and an outlet below the counter. The gas guy is gonna have to come move his gas line. And yeah, so if you guys are looking at trying to budget something so simple and just so easy, I really think that those terms, it's kind of like my SEO guy, him and I were talking, nowhere in a 3-circle sphere do you find cheap, quick, and fast. And so you really have to, like he said, pick 2 of the 3, but you're never gonna get all that unless you're getting a really, pizza, but I can't even find a pizza that's really that good, that fast, and that cheap. So when you're dealing with electrical like this, I mean, you need to budget. If I have to put in a sub panel outside and then swing over, there were 8 circuits that I did touch. Again, to refresh your memory, if you didn't find the other 2 videos, 210.12 says that if I modify dining, living room, bedroom, kitchen, fireplace, nook, sunroom, pretty much everything that was on this list, I identified it. And I told the GC that came by, I'm like, there's 8 circuits here that we modified. We will have to put arc fault breakers and put a sub panel, And I says, you need to be budgeting about $1,500 outside to be dealing with this stuff. And then if you look at the inside work, now if you have a service change, and I've got to do a permit separate standalone with that and deal with the utility side and change the meter. Because here in Colorado, guys, I get a lot of you guys that YouTube me say, I can buy a meter at Home Depot. Well, that's fine. But here, we have to put bypass levers in everywhere in Colorado. And all utilities, except for REA, they're the only ones that may not be requiring it. But the fifth job, bypass lever meter, and now the disconnect outside, now feeding your sub panel, making sure that's a 4-wire. And in a house like this, that's fine, but with all those tandem and quads outside, you could upgrade the box, but if you can add a sub panel, they'll let you do that. But if you touch that box and you change it, you now have to update that combo unit to like a 40 circuit panel. And that one outside was a what we call 20/40. It's either 20 full spaces or 40 small spaces, but I don't have enough space just to put in one arc fault. So it's going to be interesting to see what he's going to do about that, because he didn't really plan on that, but I mapped it out. I talked to him here about 2 hours ago and said, you guys got to plan on something like this. Because a normal rough end, let's say the panel did have enough breaker spaces and it was more current past 2010, and I could add arc faults, not by adding circuits. I don't need to add a single circuit in this place. The only thing that I told him I was really concerned about was that the dining 4 outlets and the one he had me add with the fridge and these 5 in here, which may be an office, and who knows if they get cold, put a space heater at their feet. I said, that's the circuit that's going to give you trouble, because I can't even get to that side. It's all finished. And over there I can get to it, but I'm finished between, I'll show you, between here and the basement, my panel's over there outside, and you can see that's all finished. So I think you need to be budgeting on an average, at the minimum, about $2,500 to start dealing with the remodel for electrical. And if you don't have enough circuits in there, you might be over closer to a $5,000 mark. And I know I don't like talking about pricing, because there's a lot of people that get online and they're really jerks about it. Look, if you moonlight and you have a boss that pays your bills and wipes your nose and buys your food and pays for your car insurance, this isn't even a point to talk to you about. But if you're a full-fledged business like us for 15 years and you have your credentials, and you pay your employees, and you have your overhead and your advertisement and your vehicles, all that stuff, insurance, you need to be budgeting that, because as a professional, those, of course we've got to charge for those things. But when we're dealing with a rough-in right now that's at about 10 hours to do all of this, and then we got to come back and deal with the pony wall and the peninsula after they get the floor finished, there's an hour one-way drive time there and home. That's 2 hours, but then we're going to deal with about probably 2 to 3 hours to deal with that wall, maybe half day. But then we come back to trim out. It's going to be probably about a half day as well. So you could be looking at a job for electrical. If I don't have to do a sub panel out there, for us that's going to be probably about a 20-hour job, 2.5 days. Or probably 3 days at the max, at 3 8-hour days. We usually stay till it's done. But for us, we're looking at it a 20-hour job. And so I think you need to be looking at your budget like that to make sure, because I know a lot of people are calling me with this open concept deal and ripping walls out, and then they call an electrician, and then they didn't even think, do I maybe need a permit? Look, some jurisdictions say if you leave everything as is, you're fine. But with the city that I'm in, we are leaving all that as is, except for they did move the sink, which therefore did affect my dishwasher, my disposal, and my kitchen counter plug. And then we added in the nook. So right there, 4 circuits were completely touched. And so some jurisdictions say, hey, yep, if you pulled a new wire, if you extended, if you modified it, we want to check your work. I find it pretty interesting about being in Colorado, because there's a lot of other professionals that get registered with DORA, hygienists and dentists and doctors and chiropractors and teachers. But that's kind of funny. They don't have inspectors drive around and check our fillings before they fill it, or during the filling time, or even the teaching. It's so interesting how they really pick on contractors pretty well here in Colorado. So the bottom line, guys, is that make sure you're looking at it ahead of time. before you, on your summer's day or your Father's Day weekend, you're gonna, watch a couple HD TV shows and, are you gonna list it or love it? Look, the bottom line, guys, at the end of the day, you're gonna want her to make sure she still loves you and doesn't hate your guts. But I've had guys come in and just bust out walls, and they didn't plan anything out. And talk about list it or love it, she wanted to list him and not love it at all because they didn't realize what they were getting into because they had still had to get new appliances. They didn't even look at cabinets, countertops they kind of budgeted. But then when it came to electrical, HVAC, and plumbing, it was like, well, all that's in the wall. I thought we were just gonna leave it as is. Again, as we come in to look at a job, we're gonna make sure our circuits are correct. We need, typical kitchen in there is gonna be anywhere from 8 to 12 circuits in the kitchen, minimum. So keep that in mind. I've done some kitchens that are way more than that. I've had cooktops, composters, trash composters. I've had wine refrigerators. I've had, I've had microwaves that run at 240 volt, 50 amp to 20 amp. So there's a lot of different appliances nowadays that people are doing. Sub-Zeros, those can be 240 volt rated as well. But anyways, yeah, so this is the video. Look for this. This is the third final video on that. Again, I don't try to talk a ton about pricing, but I'm trying to give you an idea to budget it. And if other guys out there that are just doing it handyman style, well, good luck. Anyways, guys, thanks for joining us. Have a good one.